Hi, Gaye DeRusso with the Majestic Rider. So today I'm going to do a podcast on having your horse in pasture versus having your horse in a stall. This is something that when you're buying a horse is very important to ask, but I can tell you most people do not ask this question at all, or they just assume it's a similar situation. Having a horse in pasture or a large paddock is going to be more natural for the horse, especially if it turned out with other horses and can have social interaction and it can roam all day or all night. It's natural for horses to roam up to 30 miles a day in search of food and water. It's very unnatural for a horse to be in a stall for 23 hours a day. And I say 23 because most people ride their horse an hour. Some people ride it more and some people ride it less. So let's assume that the horse is in the stall for 23 hours. When you take an animal that's used to roaming and being exposed to stimulus and having social interaction with its friends, and then put it in a stall for 23 hours, that's like taking a person who has freedom and then putting that person in prison or in prison with isolation. So it can really change a person's personality and it can really change a horse's personality. So when you take a horse that's been in pasture and you put it in the stall, one, it doesn't know how to get rid of all that energy that it's been using up every day before that. So a lot of times the horse will keep running around in its stall, it might jig in its stall, it might start rearing up and bucking. And all these things are ways for the horse to disperse its energy, although you might think it's nuts. But again, remember, it was used to roaming all day long and now it's locked up and not getting any exercise at all. The other thing that can happen when you take a horse that was in a pasture with its buddies and now it's in a stall and it cannot see the other horses or it cannot interact with them at all, is it starts to kind of go into withdrawal and it can get very depressed. It can not want to sleep because it doesn't feel like it's guarded anymore and safe. So that could make your horse start getting trippy or goofy or acting weird because it's not getting any sleep anymore. And you have to be aware because you're trying to help this horse to adjust as much as you can. The other thing, the horse was used to picking and eating when it wanted to eat and not having to eat at a certain time. That's much better for the horse. It decreases the risk of colic since their gut is moving all the time. So having a horse where it's getting fed just twice a day and then standing there the rest of the day, if it has that urge to graze because it's natural for them, they can start eating the sand. If there's sand in their paddock, they can start eating the shavings, they can start chewing on the walls, they can start cribbing, they can start weaving. They will start doing all these things to disperse their energy and then help them to satisfy that need for grazing. The other thing that happens is because they're not really getting rid of all that energy that they did when you tried the horse or when the other person had it, that horse is full of energy and can also be full of anxiety. So it's very important you try to work that energy off before you ride that horse. And that's why you'll see so many people that are at boarding stables, lunging their horses and round pending their horses, and you might not understand why, because you have your horse out in pasture and it's totally calm. So when you go from pasture to stall, if you're buying a horse or if you're selling a horse, you want to tell that person, hey, you better round pen this. I tell everybody that. You better round pen this horse, let it get used to its new surroundings, how much energy it's using a day, and give it time to adjust because it may take many months, 2 years for that horse to go back to the way it was. Okay? Because you hear so many stories of people saying the horse was drugged, and yes, maybe it was, but maybe it was just out in pasture with its family and had never been off the property before, and now you've taken it, put it in a stall, taken it from its friends and brothers and sisters, and now it has a major stressor it has to deal with. And again, that can take some years for it to adjust. Remember, with COVID, people got locked up in their house, and they could still move around their house, and they could still go outside. They just couldn't interact with people. And people started going crazy, didn't they? They started misbehaving, losing control, fighting on the planes, all sorts of things you would never think people would do. But they did. And nobody said, well, I think they're drugged. I think that's what's wrong with them. No, we knew what was wrong with them. We knew it was because they were stuck in their house. They had no social interaction. They couldn't breathe normally anymore because they had a mask on, and there were all these restrictions, and we had taken away a lot of people's freedom. So that's what happens, is you take away the horse's freedom to move, to interact with its friends, and all of a sudden the horse starts acting much different than it was before. Now, if you take a horse from a stall, say the horse has grown up in a stall, so that's all it knows, it was a show horse, and you go to put it out in pasture, what happens with that? Well, one, the horse doesn't know what to do. And so sometimes if they start running, they don't know to stop running. And they keep running, and their adrenaline comes up, and they start running faster and faster until they lose their balance, fall into something, or smack into the fence. So they can start running crazy. They might not know how to interact with other horses, so they don't know manners, and so they might either annoy other horses or be very scared of the other horses. Okay? So it could become very defensive and become a kicker just because it doesn't know how to interact with the other horses. So if you're taking a horse from stall and putting it in pasture, you want to slowly do it. Hi, buddy. You want to slowly go into a little bit larger area, and then larger area, and then larger area. And then put it next to the other horses in the paddocks. Let those horses interact with it, show it what to do. That horse will get to watch the other horses interacting, and it'll teach it over time how they're supposed to interact. And then slowly, when you think the horse is ready, you can put it with the other horses for short periods of time. But just to set it loose out in the pasture, when it's been in a stall, could go downhill fast. Again, if it starts running around, of course, horses like to hurt themselves all the time, and it could definitely get hurt. It might also not be used to running on the terrain. It might trip and fall, and you'll think the horse is very clumsy, and maybe it is because it has not learned how to deal with that different terrain. So horses, again, naturally are supposed to roam. They're supposed to eat all day, and that's the best thing for them. Again, they can always get hurt in pasture when they're with other horses, but they can also get hurt when they're alone. So that's the most natural state for them. That will make the horse the happiest, and that will usually make the horse the calmest. But if it cannot be out in pasture, it cannot graze all day, it cannot interact with other horses because you either have it in a stall or something else is wrong, well, then you're trying to do things to help that horse. And again, one is working them, either taking them in the arena, running them around, lunging them, round pending, or maybe in the beginning doing all three of those things and then desensitizing it at the end to bring its energy back down before you climb on and ride that horse. So next time you're going to buy a horse, ask them, has this horse been in pasture with other horses? Where is it kept? Is it in a stall? Is it, in a pasture during the day and a stall at night? Because you're trying to imitate as close as you can to what that horse had. And know that if that horse has lived on that place all its life, and it's been with its parents, say the stallion and the mare are at the facility that you're buying them from, and the horse hasn't really traveled, that it is going to take a long time for that horse to adjust. And again, they have to make new friends, and it's very stressful to them. So a lot of horses, when they show up, will act different because, one, they might be depressed, they don't understand where they are, they have no friends, and they have no way to get rid of their energy, and then they again can start acting up. So try to give your horse as much time as you can to help it to adjust. Work it, be its friend, show it what it's supposed to do. And then the process of you taking over that horse will become much easier over time, and the horse will settle in. All right, hope that helps.